18, Constitution 19, Dexterity 48, Perception 25, Mind 71, Magic 23, Faith 0. Active buffs: damage reduction, life 0%, death 5%, air 10%, earth 10%, fire 10%, water 10%, shadow 5%, light 5%, dark 5%, physical 26%. Resistances: life 0%, death 2.5%, air 5%, earth 5%, fire 5%, water 5%, shadow 2.5%, light 2.5%, dark 2.5%, physical 0%. Immunities: entanglement, tier 2 spells. Mind spells, tier 2 spells. Skills: dodging 114, sneaking 115, short swords 124, two-weapon fighting 115, light armor 113, thieving 89, chi 113, meditation 137, telekinesis 120, telepathy 113, insight 133, deception 109, channeling 25, elemental absorption 25, null force 15, null life 4, null death 11. I smiled in satisfaction. My skills continued to improve. A few were even closing down on tier 4. My void skills, though, had a long way to go. While the battle with the hags and the marauder team had raised them some, I realized I would have to make a concerted effort to bring them in line with my other skills. If only there weren't so much to do. Perhaps tomorrow, after I found the direwolves, I would train my void skills. I'd run across plenty of low-level creatures in the valley during my previous visit, and if I went looking, I was sure to find suitable monsters this time around. The engagements would have to be real fights, though. Otherwise, the game would not award me with skill increases. I turned back to the marauder camp. Of course, all that was assuming everything went off as planned tonight, which was far from certain at this point. In the meantime, I think it's time to spend those 3 attribute points. I could dump them in dexterity again, or I could invest them in perception. Doing so would allow me to utilize one of the ability tomes currently weighing down my backpack. Perception it is, I decided, and willed my desire to the adjudicator. Your perception has increased to rank 28. Excellent, I murmured. I now had 6 perception ability slots available. That would suffice to upgrade one of my existing abilities. Which one should it be? Analyze, facial disguise, or trap detect? Upgrading Analyze would be of the most immediate benefit, but I preferred a longer-term strategy. Working towards a more comprehensive facial disguise fit that bill. Being able to mask my face even while in a safe zone would increase the effectiveness of my disguises, something I greatly desired. Extracting the ability tome in question from my backpack, I began reading. You have upgraded your facial disguise ability to Improve Facial Disguise. This Tier 2 ability enhances the illusion wrapped around you, masking not only your features, but your voice too. Additionally, players who attempt to Tier 1 analyze on you will see a falsified name, level, and species. You have 2 of 28 perception ability slots remaining. Closing my eyes, I let the new knowledge settle in my mind. The improvement provided by Facial Disguise's Tier 2 variant was negligible, and perhaps not worth 4 whole ability slots, but it was the Tier 3 variant I sought. It would make the investment worthwhile in the end. At a soft creak from below, my eyes snapped open. Glancing down, I saw the gate to the Marauders' camp open. Finally, I thought, and rose to my haunches. A double column of players streamed out. Their expressions were uniformly grim, and they all held their weapons at the ready. Narrowing my gaze, I counted off their numbers. When the gate finally slammed shut, I'd reached 50. I whistled soundlessly in silent appreciation. By any normal measure, 50 players were overkill for hunting a lone assassin. More impressive yet, every marauder in the company was buffed and ready for war. I could tell that just by looking because of the glowing bubbles surrounding each mage. Whatever else the marauder boss was, he was a careful and astute commander. 50 players, all in one big party, and with their defenses up already. Ambushing them will be a tad more difficult than I anticipated, I acknowledged in wry understatement. So, what did I do? My gaze dropped to the front of the column, passing beneath me. Tevin was there, in new gear, as well as another player who I didn't recognize. Both were in animated conversation. Lending my ear, I listened in. "Telling you, Micah," Tevin was saying, "whoever this guy is, he's impossible to spot." Micah, a lanky elf with a multi-hued headdress, snorted. "And I'm telling you, stop worrying. Our hound is a specialist. Once she picks up his spoor at the ambush point, she will be able to track him wherever he goes, no matter how high you think his stealth is." He glanced at the player marching directly behind him. "Isn't that right, hound?" "Don't call me that," the woman so addressed growled. "I have a name. Use it." Micah sniggered. "Ah, but I much prefer hound. It has such a nice ring to it. Don't you think, Tevin?" The knight, wisely, refrained from commenting. "What if he kills her?" he asked with an apologetic glance at the short woman. Micah rolled his eyes. "That's what her protective shield is for. Or did it somehow escape your notice?" "Much good a shield did Greaves," Tevin muttered. "Well, I'm not Greaves," Micah bit out irritably. "I swear, to hear you speak, you'd think this assassin was a bogeyman. But you didn't see him charm the others. It was..." "Enough, Tevin," Micah said wearily. "We have psionics of our own to protect us." He held the knight's gaze. "He's just a player, you know? We'll find him and kill him soon enough." "Even if he is an elite," Tevin persisted. "He's not an elite," Micah snapped, his patience seeming to wear thin. "Our spies in the village have been keeping close track of everyone who has entered the sector. We know where they all are. This player, whatever he is not that." "I hope you're right," Tevin muttered under his breath before falling silent. I let the pair slip out of range as the rest of the column marched past. Their conversation had been revealing, to say the least, and gave me food for thought. The so-called hound was particularly disconcerting. The short woman was nothing to look at, and, except for the magic shield surrounding her, didn't warrant any special attention. I hesitated to analyze her, though. If she was a tracker, it stood to reason her perception was high, increasing the chances that she would resist or even detect my analyze attempt. And I was not about to risk that. I wondered how she tracked her quarries. By sight, sound, scent, or mind glow, or through some other means I didn't know about. But the hound hadn't spotted me hiding in the tree high above. So either her perception wasn't high enough to penetrate my stealth, or she'd simply not looked my way. The same reasoning also applied to mental tracking. The moment I'd heard Micah mention psionics, I'd woven a mind shield around my consciousness, but that wouldn't have helped me if the marauders had already been searching for my mind glow. I have to know just how strong their psionics are, I decided. Lowering my mind shield, I opened my mind sight. It was disturbingly empty. Not a single mind glow appeared, despite the 50 players marching beneath me. I cursed and restored my mind shield. If the Marauders' psionics were powerful enough to shield the entire company, chances were they would quickly nullify my psi abilities. Had it been a mistake to let Tevin go? Perhaps. But it was too late to change that now. I glanced down at my chameleon belt and the enchantment crystals secured there. The good news was that I had the means necessary to hide from the hound. And if it came to it, from the psionics too. I can't take on this enemy column, though. They were too well prepared for my tricks. My gaze drifted back to the Marauder camp, but maybe they weren't. Chapter 278, Breach. I didn't immediately head into the Marauder. If the Hound could track me from the ambush spot to here, and at this point I had to assume she could, then first I had to lead her astray, which meant laying a false trail. Not attempting to conceal my scent or mind, I headed due south until I reached the valley's southern border. This is good enough, I thought, looking around. Let the Hound track me this far and no farther. Extracting a pair of enchantment crystals, I crushed both. You have activated a scent concealment crystal, masking your scent for 4 hours. You have activated a mental concealment crystal, hiding your consciousness for 8 hours. With my protections in place, and hopefully now invisible to the Hound's senses, I retraced my steps north, traveling swiftly until I reached the trees bordering the Marauder base. Pausing there, I studied the crisscrossing weaves of magic encasing the camp. The spellcasters who had set the wards had layered them in the shape of a dome, one that did not extend above the treetops. Naturally, the strands forming the dome were thickest at the ground level and around the palisade, but up top along the upper reaches of the trees, there were gaps. Not large ones, but big enough for an agile person who knew just the right angle to contort his body to slip through. First, though, I had to get above the wards. Setting my hands on the trunk of the ancient oak sheltering me, I got climbing. I didn't stop until I reached the topmost branches. Stepping onto a slender bough, I bounced lightly. It bore my weight without protest. Perfect. Running across the branch, I launched myself into the night sky, forded the expanse of open air between, and touched down on a tree inside the camp. Crouching down on the quivering tree limb, I glanced down. The camp's wards were below me. This close to the wall, they were a densely packed mess. But I didn't intend on dropping into the base from here. Slipping through the tree, I made my way to its far end, then leaped again. As I landed, the next branch creaked alarmingly, but did not give way. Heaving a sigh of relief, I inched towards the tree's central trunk before looking down again. The wards had thinned, but not enough. Fixing my gaze on the next one, I repeated my maneuver, then thrice more, each time flitting silently from tree to tree until I was perched in the bosom of a redwood near the center of the camp. Once more, I looked below. Here, at last, there was a hole in the dome large enough to slip through. Moving slowly, I lowered myself down the tree until I landed on a branch a mere foot above the gap in the wards. I'd reached my chosen insertion point. Peering into the lattice of magic, I studied the path I needed to take. There were 5 layers of spells to bypass, but they were stacked tightly enough that a single wind slide would carry me through. I paused, tense with anticipation. The moment of truth had arrived. Either I would sail through the Marauder's defenses, or I would be caught like a fly trapped in a web. Exhaling a slow breath, I mapped the windslide's path with more care than was my wont. Then, tucking in my limbs, I stepped onto the ramp of air. I was on my way. I zipped through the wards in a giddy rush and touched down on a stout branch before I realized it. Multiple hostile entities have failed to detect you. You are hidden. A plethora of sights, sounds, and noise assailed me. The transition was so sudden that for a moment, I was dazed and left wondering if I'd not tripped the wards after all. Then sense prevailed, and I realized the wards did more than protect the camp. They also hid it from external observation. Safely nestled in the redwood, I craned my neck from left to right and let information seep in. Mage lights were wrapped around the lower trunks of the trees and affixed to the inside of the palisade, brightly illuminating the Marauder base. The gate through which Tevin had passed was also clearly visible from my vantage point, and I noted it was the camp's only entrance. Everywhere I looked, players strolled, laughed, or caroused. Most were gathered around raging campfires that, for some reason or the other, the wards had not hidden entirely. Seen from inside the camp, though, they were more like bonfires. There were 10 campfires in all, but only half had been lit. Each campfire was set outside a large, rectangular-like tent, and through the open flaps of some, I spied rows of bunk beds. Saya's estimates were wrong. The thought popped into my head unbidden. Examining it, I realized why. There were about 10 dozen marauders visible in the camp, and assuming none were already sleeping in the khaki tents, the enemy's numbers were far short of 500. 120 marauders in the camp, 23 dead, 50 searching for me in the woods, and another 50 in the village, blockading the tavern. That put the marauders' full complement in the sector at nearly 250. Still a lot, I thought wryly, as I considered the 10 rectangular tents. They were barracks, and I judged each large enough to house about 24 players, which matched my tally of the marauders' numbers. But there was also an 11th tent, dirty brown, circular-shaped, and significantly smaller than the others. It sat directly beneath me. A command tent? For the marauder boss? It seemed likely. The interior of the tent was not visible from where I perched, but I had other means of seeing. Unfurling my mage sight, I scanned inside. A single mind glow shone within. I let my gaze drift away from the tent. None of the players in the camp were shielded, and other than the 2 guards at the gate, the same 2 who'd greeted Tevin, there were no sentries. No one looked up, either, or appeared concerned about a lurking assassin. This was not a camp on high alert. I can probably get away with analyzing the players, I decided. Even if I was detected, they might not think anything of it. Refocusing on the mind glow in the round tent, I cast Analyze. The target is Izark, a level 148 orc blood drinker. He bears a mark of Lesser Dark, a mark of Greater Shadow, and a mark of Kalin. I smiled beatifically. Got you. I spent another 20 minutes carefully observing the marauders, analyzing each in turn. I'd been right, none of them, not even Izark, was tier 4. Level-wise, it put me and my foes on equal footing. Factoring in my scion traits, unusual classes, and rare traits, well then, the advantage was squarely with me. One-on-one, at least. My biggest challenge was the marauders' numbers, but I'd known that coming in, and had a few ideas of how to better the odds. My observations revealed something else, too. The number and size of the tented barracks were not a coincidence. Each tent housed a single team of marauders, 24 by my best guess, and their commander. By and large, each team remained a tight-knit unit, eating and making merry at their own campfire. Occasionally, individual marauders would drift to another group, but they would always return to their fellows. The commanders were invariably the highest level player in each team, and notable by the deference the other marauders paid them. I counted 5 commanders in the camp, including Pitor. He and his team must have returned from the village while I'd been dealing with Huron's party. Oddly, Pitor and Izark were the only 2 marauders who bore Kalin's mark. Pitor was also the second highest level player in the camp. Did that make him Izark's second in command? Probably, I decided, and turned my thoughts on how to deal with the marauders. My initial idea was to poison their food. I still had 3 vials of Viper's Venom I'd looted from Wangermax, and using poison was a strategy that had worked well for me against the Fangtooths in Erebus's dungeon. But the marauders had 5 pots cooking at the moment, 1 at each campfire. The other 5 campfires were unlit, courtesy of the teams out in the field. Still, 5 pots were 4 too many. Unlike the goblins, the marauders were players, and would be alerted the instant they were poisoned, which meant I either poisoned all of them at once, an impossibility in the current circumstances, or none at all. I couldn't risk losing the advantage of surprise while some of my foes were still unincapacitated. The same reasoning applied to the use of my traps. Never mind that I didn't have enough to deploy against 10 dozen players, which left only slaying the marauders in their sleep. It was a strategy not without problems of its own. I would have to remain hidden until the camp settled down for the night, and then hope no one awoke at an inopportune moment. Not to mention, I ran the risk of the hound returning before I was done. Yes, my scent was masked, and yes, my mind concealed, but I had no certainty those measures would suffice against the tracker. But on the plus side, the longer I waited, the more intoxicated my foes would become. None of the marauders looked like they were rationing their drinks. Killing my foes in their sleep is the best strategy open to me. Bracing my back against the stout trunk of the redwood, I closed my eyes and settled down for a long wait. Chapter 279, Hunter-Killer. 2 hours later, I opened my eyes. The marauders' raucous laughter and loud singing had died down, leaving only the sound of clinking glasses and soft murmurs, but nearly half the camp was still awake. It was not the lack of noise that had shaken me from my trance, though. It was the sound of the gate opening that did. Rolling into a crouch, I peered intently at the palisade. The 2 marauder teams accompanying Micah and the Hound had returned. Damnation, I cursed, and rechecked my protections. Everything was as it should be. Glancing up through the branches at the wards beyond, I wondered if I should retreat. But no, once past the wards, I would be blind to what was happening inside the camp. And the Hound was already here. There was no point in leaving just yet. Better to remain still and trust in my protections. Staying where I was, I watched the incoming marauders. The 2 teams broke off, each heading to a different unlit fireplace. But not Micah and the Hound. Both made their way straight to the command tent, and me. A hostile entity has failed to detect you. You are hidden. Clenching my blades, I spun Psy in readiness. If the Hound showed the least sign of suspicion, I would flee the camp with Windborne. Then the night would devolve into a running battle through the forest. Perhaps not a bad thing. It was how I'd originally anticipated taking on the marauders. A hostile entity has failed to detect you. The Hound and Micah drew closer, Tevin not with them. Neither looked up. Not daring to breathe, I waited. The pair paused at the closed tent flap. A hostile entity has failed to detect you. Come, a harsh voice called. Micah ducked within, then the Hound. I exhaled slowly. I'd gone unfound. Either the tracker was not as good as Micah thought she was, or my protections were better. What do you have to report? Izark growled from inside the tent. Banishing my musings, I listened in. Despite the orc's voice being muffled by the tent, his words carried clearly to me. Nothing, Micah replied airily. Nothing? Izark asked, the ire in his voice undisguised. Before the elf could reply with another flippant comment, the Hound interjected. I picked up our quarry's trail in the clearing Tevin showed us, then lost it at the southern mountain slopes. There was a pregnant pause. You lost it? The marauder boss repeated. I expected better from you, Misha. So, that's the Hound's name. I was lucky to track him even that far, she said. Why? Izark asked sharply. Is he that good? Hardly, Misha snorted, then laughed humorlessly. But it's hard to spot tracks left on tree bark. More silence. Back up, Izark commanded.
Are you saying the assassin is traveling by treetop?
Yes, was the clipped response.
What is he? A bloody elf?
Izark muttered.
Hey, I resent that.
Micah interjected.
Not all elves are tree huggers, you know. Why, my own... Shut up, Micah!
The orc roared. The elf complied immediately.
Better,
Izark said in a milder tone.
Go on, Misha. You were saying...
There's not much to add, she said. If I hadn't picked up our core's scent in the glade, I wouldn't have been able to follow him.
Well,
I thought. That tells me all I need to know about the hound's abilities.
where did the assassin go after ambushing Hurin's team?
Izark asked. He came here, the short woman replied.
Here?
Izark sounded startled.
And you didn't think to mention this earlier?
I could almost sense Misha's shrug. He didn't do anything except perhaps study the camp and mark its location before heading south.
Where you lost him,
the orc prompted. Correct, she replied, not sounding happy about the fact. Izark began pacing, his footfalls echoing loudly.
This is an interesting foe we face,
he mused.
He appears out of nowhere, kills an entire team, issues meaningless threats, finds our camp, then disappears again. Does this make sense to either of you?
Neither Micah nor Misha replied that I could hear, but I imagined they were shaking their heads.
Did you learn anything else about him?
Izark asked. Nothing that Tevin didn't tell us already, Misha said. He's short, fast, wields 2 blades, one of them an ebon blade, the other a...
Stop!
Izark snapped.
Did you say an ebon blade?
That's right, Micah said, answering before Misha could. When Tevin described the weapon, I immediately recognized it as an ebony short sword. He paused. But it can't be a real ebon blade, can it? If Captain Talon wanted us gone, he wouldn't have sent a lone assassin.
You're sure it was an ebon blade?
Izark pressed, ignoring his subordinate's question. That, or a very good fake, the elf replied. The chair creaked as the orc sat down.
Get Tevin in here, and Petor too,
he hissed.
At once.
Silence descended in the tent again as Misha and Micah ran out to do Izark's bidding. While they were gone, I tried to puzzle out why the orc had fixated on the detail regarding the ebon blade. What did he know or suspect? I was no closer to uncovering the answer, though, before Micah and Misha returned, with Tevin and Petor in tow.
Petor, describe the player you observed arriving in the sector this morning.
Izark ordered without preamble. A pause. Which one? The human fighter inquired.
The bodyguard of Kesh's agent, whom you foolishly allowed to enter the tavern.
Izark roared back. Oh, him. Petor shifted. I take it you don't mean the bard.
Of course not, you imbecile.
Izark scoffed. Right. Got it, Petor replied weakly. Even from outside the tent, I could tell he was nervous, but there was nothing wrong with the marauder's memory. Taking a deep breath, he described me in exacting detail. Izark swung to Tevin.
Is that the assassin who attacked your team?
It sounds like him, the knight replied cautiously. But his face was different.
Faces can be more easily disguised than gear,
Izark retorted.
It's him, I'm certain.
No one said anything for a moment. But why is that important? Micah finally dared to ask.
Because he was with Kesh's agent. That makes him one of her lackeys.
Izark began pacing again.
Civilian though she may be, Kesh is a player of means. She is not to be trifled with, nor are the powers she has aligned herself with. Either the Triumvirate have an interest in this sector,
he stopped short,
or Kesh does.
Izark snapped his fingers.
Petor, that merchant we bribed, the one who was relaying the tavern keeper's messages, did he tell us to whom they were addressed?
No, boss.
Could it have been Kesh?
Izark muttered.
Has the gnome been trying to elicit the Emporium's help all along?
Silence.
That must be it,
Izark said, answering himself before anyone else could.
And now, Kesh has decided to take a direct hand in events. Hence the agent and the assassin.
He sat down.
This is bad. Kalen must be informed.
Petor made a move toward the tent flap. On it. I'll dispatch a messenger Izark cut him off.
No, I will not go empty-handed before our lord. We will send word to Kalen after we capture and question the assassin.
How will we do that? Tevin asked brightly. Izark ignored him.
Misha, Micah, take your teams back out and scour the spot where you lost his trail.
But we've already been, the hound began.
Go!
Izark barked.
You will depart immediately.
The orc lowered his voice threateningly.
And don't return without something to report.
Wordlessly, the two fled the tent to do the Marauder boss's bidding.
Why are you still here, Tevin?
Izark inquired mildly. Mutely, the knight dashed out after the others.
Jeez,
Izark, Petor chuckled nervously when the pair were alone.
You're in a mood tonight.
What's...
You will accompany Misha and Micah.
What? Petor exclaimed. Why should I go? He whined.
That's an interesting question,
Izark said softly.
Maybe to redeem yourself. If you hadn't waited all day to report on the arrival of Kesh's agent, we wouldn't be in this mess.
How was I to know?
Or maybe,
Izark said, his voice rising.
You should go because you're my second in command. Kalen will want someone to blame in case this all goes wrong, and that won't be me.
Powers, Izark? Are you really going to...
Or maybe,
Izark roared,
you should go simply because I ordered you to.
Prudently, Petor swallowed further protest.
As you wish,
he said stiffly, and stomped out of the tent. The conversation in the tent left me grinning sleepy. Micah and Misha were leaving. Again. Unwittingly, Izark had removed the biggest threats to my plan. The Hound, the Psionics, and the most alert Marauders. Having caroused most of the night, the rest of the players were too far gone in their cups to pose much danger. This just might work after all. Sitting back down against the trunk of the redwood, I watched the two teams leave. The gates slammed shut behind them, and calm descended on the camp. The minutes ticked by, and little by little, more Marauders retired to their tents. Beneath me, I heard a heavy sigh and the creak of a bed. Izark, too, was going to sleep. I resumed my vigil, and time slipped by. With every passing hour, the silence deepened, until an hour past midnight, I judged the entirety of the camp, except the two gate guards, asleep. I rose to my feet. The camp was a mess, with discarded dishes and cups strewn everywhere. The shadows were thicker too, the mage lights having dimmed as their charges waned. Casting my buffs, I dropped to the ground, gaze fixed on the gate. I'd hours to prepare and knew in exactly what sequence I would execute my plan. The two sentries would be the first to die. Bent in a half crouch, I padded closer. Neither guard spotted me, too focused on stealing sips from the bottle they passed between themselves.
2 hostile entities have failed to detect you.
I closed the distance to 5 yards. 3. 1. And still, neither Marauder spotted me. I shook my head. Some guards these are. Rearing up to my full height, I yanked back the head of the closer one and plunged Ebonheart through his back. A soft moan escaped my victim as the bottle he clenched fell from suddenly lifeless fingers. You have killed Justin with a fatal blow. The second guard's gaze jerked down, following the broken bottle. Justin, you's all right. That's good shit you're spilling. Give us here. Sighing in disgust, I stepped over the corpse and towards his near-senseless partner. No need to waste psi blinking behind this one. The guard peered owlishly at me. Hey, who's sure? With more force than strictly necessary, I rammed my Stygian sword through his throat. You have killed Hawkian with a fatal blow. Letting the body drop, I swung back to face the camp. Not a single mind glow flared, all retaining the subdued hue of dormant minds. I shook my head again. I had the sneaking suspicion that tonight's work was going to be both bloodier and easier than I'd anticipated. Chapter 280, A Grim Night's Work. I was right. Not a single soul stirred as I padded from bunk to bunk, murdering the marauders in their sleep. After the first dozen victims, I got the killings down to an art form. Clamping my left hand over my target's mouth, I placed Ebonheart under the ear and behind the jaw, then thrust inward, not rushing, and severed the brainstem in one single motion. Only a bare handful awoke to realize their fate, and they were stunned and dispatched before they could call out. I kept my mind sight open the entire time, spotting the errant few from the other tents who awoke in search of more drink or to relieve themselves. A short teleport, a quick thrust, and they too were laid to rest. In nearly no time at all, my grim work was done. Every marauder in all 5 tents was dead. 120 souls killed in what seemed an eye blink. Standing outside the command tent, I shivered involuntarily. Even having planned the murders and hoping for such an outcome, the blood on my hands made me sick to my stomach. But I was not done yet. One other person in the camp was still alive, Izark. I'd been saving him for last. Concealing my identity with facial disguise, I drew aside the flap to the orc's tent and skulked inside. He was still asleep, his mouth half open and his nostrils flaring in time to his snores. I edged closer until I was beside the bed and only bare inches from the marauder boss's exposed throat. The adjudicator had listed his class as a blood drinker. I didn't know what that was, but it didn't sound pleasant. Moving slowly, I sheathed Ebonheart. Unlike his fellows, Izark would not die an easy death. The marauder was fully dressed. He wore an ornate white robe and had a brace of curved daggers, a half-dozen potions, and a few enchantment crystals on his belt. His arms were riddled with tiny scars that looked self-inflicted, and even asleep, his face was etched in angry lines. Moving with painstaking care, I freed the orc of his weapons. You have acquired 3 rank 4 sacrificial daggers. The properties of these items have been shielded from direct inspection. Interesting, I thought absently, as I set aside the daggers. Normally, I would only loot my targets after they were dead, but I intended on chatting with the marauder boss and didn't want to leave him his weapons, in case he somehow managed to overcome me. Knives taken care of, I relieved the orc of his potions, too. You have acquired 6 minor health regeneration potions. Each potion will gradually restore a player's health at a rate of 0.2% per second over 2 minutes. The potions were also intriguing, and if I had to guess, had been specially crafted for Izark. Next, I unwound a length of rope. Pushing one end under the bed, I pulled it gently over Izark's arms and torso before wrapping it beneath the bed again. The orc's hands twitched. Pausing in my work, I glanced at the marauder's face, but he showed no other signs of restlessness. Resuming my toil, I wrapped the orc in a few more layers of rope. Finally, I returned to the head of the bed. Izark's snores had not abated. Extracting the 3 vials of viper's venom from my backpack, I unstoppered each and held them ready. Here goes. In a burst of motion, I upended the vials into the orc's open mouth, shoved his jaw shut, forced him to swallow, and then yanked the rope tight around his body. You have lost 3 vials of viper's venom. You have poisoned Izark. The marauder boss's eyes snapped open, his mouth working in wordless shock. Instinctively, he tried to rise, but with his arms pinned to his sides and his torso tied to the bed, he was going nowhere. Realizing he was trapped, but not knowing how or why, Izark's struggles grew more frenzied. Unsheathing Ebonheart, I rested the tip on his throat. Stop, I ordered. The orc froze. In an instant, Izark's face cleared, scrubbed free of emotion. Then, with deliberate care, his head turned in my direction. Who are you? I stared at the orc in silent admiration. If I'd not witnessed his frantic struggles of a second ago, I would almost believe him to be at ease. Who I am is of less concern than why I'm here, I replied mildly. You have passed a mental resistance check. An analyze attempt by a hostile entity has failed. Izark has failed to pierce your disguise. What have you done to me? Izark asked, his voice still calm and betraying no sign of his failed attempt to inspect me. I cocked my head to the side. What? Haven't checked your game messages yet? That's sloppy. The marauder's eyes narrowed a touch before turning blank again. He'd not appreciated the admonishment.
Alright, so I spent like, I don't know what that was, like an hour, hour and a half. Well, my recording will tell me. So that was 40 minutes, roughly, my 42 minutes right now. Give or take some, prep time and all that such. So I was using this medium, I have it listed as medium void blade. I go back and forth between deep freeze and pestilence and some other stuff. I also use occasionally, like Fire Staff is good with VG as well. I'm just not that good with Fire Staff in general. I like to mess around with it, but it's just not my, I don't want to say it's like not my forte, it's just like, it's not my strength. I think to play Fire Staff well in this game, you need to aim your auto attacks. So your charged charged heavy attacks or your light attacks, you need to hit those like the majority of the time. And my aim's just not good enough, to be frank, to get full value. So I missed too many fireballs. And then I'm target locking pillar of fire. I mean, you can't mess with that. It's target lock unless they iframe it. And then burnout I'm decent with, but burnout's it's pathing. It doesn't work for you. You just have to aim it generally in the path, and it is what it is. So I do it, but I definitely think there's way better light Fire Staff players than I do, and I'm usually playing it when I mess around with it in heavy for PvP. I play it in light for Gorgon. In PvE, it's super easy in Gorgon with that's my Gorgon build. This is my Gorgon build with Inferno. It's really good, but Meteor Shower is just a PvE ability, and then it's large scale war stat pattern kind of build. But for small scale PvP, you're not using Meteor Shower, you're using Burnout, Fireball, and Pillar of Fire. And it's a good build. I just don't think I'm good enough with Fire Staff doing it. I need to rep it a lot more. I have a lot more rep time in the game on melee, so I generally have a better feel for when to dodge and things in melee combat, and also I don't have the best vision, so in general I can't always see my cursor. I don't have great vision, and I should wear glasses, but I don't. But anyways, I'm not trying to make a bunch of excuses. I don't have a great feel for ranged combat, so I don't play many ranged roles in general, just because my aim's not that good. I enjoy it, I'm not that good at it. So I play melee, whatever you want to call it. I say melee. So right now, I'm looking at I think I got 550 roundabouts doubloons from that trip, which was I mean, it's for 40 minutes, it's okay. I mean, it's not a great haul. I killed I don't know, 4 or 5 people out there, but I didn't get any big drops from them. So it seems like everyone's like maybe doing like, you know, under 100 or maybe 200, then leaving. Like it's, even though like the rewards are much higher, like from a frequency rate, everyone's just leaving. So I think one thing that's going on is you have to look around a ton. So it's like, part of it's like, I appreciate how the new changes where the balloon, the chest opened much faster. Man, that is so nice, because it took forever before just to open a chest. It really killed the fun. Like, dude, I don't want to sit here in a crouch position for 30 to 40 seconds, like, not just because you're exposed and vulnerable, but mainly because it's boring as fuck. Like, that's not gameplay to me. Like, a new rule I think has a problem with these long channels. I probably need to provide feedback. I don't know if they'll ever change it, but at least they did for the PvP chest. But even in PvE dungeons, like, they love these long channels, like, to open doors and such. Like, I don't know what the purpose is to a 30-second to 45-second channel. Like, we get the idea, we're channeling something. It doesn't have to take a minute for us to like get the value out of that mechanic. Okay, 5-second channel, we're good. Let's move on to the next thing. Like, these long, tedious opening sequences for chests and doors and everything else they have in the game for the channels, it's for the birds. But anyways, so I got like 550. It's not much. Like, but what I was getting at is, what I'm doing here is looking at the well. So they buffed the well. It took me a second to figure out what it was that they buffed. The top stuff didn't really change too much. Like, it's still 1,500 for an armor piece and a coconut. So that's not the value. And anyways, all of this, I honestly, like, if you want to, you could do it. But the weighting on this is still trash. Like, I used to get, in the patch notes, they didn't say that they refined the perk pool in these. So I'm assuming it's the same perk pool it was before the patch, which you could get luck items or luck perks on these pieces. You could get gathering perks on these pieces. So it was weighted, but it still came with PvE perks on your PvP Wheel of Fortune thing here. And I guess it's because maybe in their mind, like, they have a CK PvE chest run. So those players are also coming to the well to spend their doubloons. So they have quote-unquote PvE perks in the well as rewards. But in my opinion, like, this whole thing was supposed to be for PvP players. So, like, to have these mixed rewards in here where it's PvE perks still rolling on the PvP Wheel of Fortune CK free-for-all zone reward UI and little station here, it was really disappointing when they came out with this. Like, I kept getting luck and gathering perks on everything that I was doing, rolling here, even with coconut. And like, you'd spend like, I don't know, 2 or 3 days to get 1,500 doubloons, and then you'd if you were doing the laps, you could do like 2 laps and get probably 3 laps. You do 3 laps of the PvE island, but I don't want to go through all that. But yeah, that was initial frustration too, is you were getting the best doubloon per time was literally just doing the PvE chest run, which was very frustrating. But anyways. But right, like, now, this isn't really worth it. Like, if you want to spend your coconut here once a week to do it, I mean, by all means. But the better rewards are down below this. So, like, these are still fine, but even, like, you only get these at 710, and you still have to spend, like, another, I forgot what it is, 700 or, like, 600 just to upgrade this from 710 to 725. And then you get to, with a coconut, get to put the 3rd perk you want. So that's still, like, a nice system, but it does take quite a lot of doubloons. But what you can do down here is, which is really nice, is these are, I believe it says up to 725, but the lowest I've gotten is 720 now. So these, under the doubloon exchange gear, above miscellaneous and below doubloon exchange gear, all this stuff is really nice. So I think this is the stuff that was mainly changed. I haven't really noticed down here. I never bought any of this stuff that's crafting. I mean, stat boost is whatever, and then miscellaneous, like, you know, stuff, it's good. But the and then this one was the one that everyone would buy daily, but this was the stuff that would roll between like 700 and 725, and it wasn't loot biased. So I wouldn't buy any of these things as far as I know. No, that wasn't the right one. It was this one, sorry. This Gold Curse Epic Crate. That's the one that everyone used to buy to try to roll a random 725 item, but it wasn't loot biased. So you could be a bruiser and get like a life staff item 725, and it could have a gathering perk on it, like, or luck. And it's like, it totally bricked the roll. So like, oh, 725, sweet, luck, bricked. It's like, it was a complete waste. But anyway, so now this stuff here, doubloon exchange, this stuff is only costs 250 for the armor pieces. They're all 250, so chest or legs or hands, it's all 250. And they roll between 720 GS to 725 gear score, which is nice. That's a pretty high gear score bracket. But the reason why they're doing this, in my, just obviously, is that next season, we just entered season 9. Next season, so here in 3 or 4 months, they're going to be going to season 10, and it looks like from everything we're seeing on the roadmap that it's going to be the gear score is going to be bumping up from 725 max to 800 max. So all this stuff that we're kind of like having fun with now is going to be, poof. It's not going to be relevant because the gear score it's such a big jump from 725 to 800. Like when you're at like 700 upscale, like you can play the perks, and like the best players, especially in groups, can still railroad everybody like 75 GS below, just because they're going to CC chain you and just burn you down one by one. But for competitive wars and competitive PvP stuff, for equal numbers, equal skill, all the 725 gear score stuff is going to be irrelevant, 3 or 4, basically next season once 800 gear score comes out. So they're kind of just giving us something to do, just to mess around with builds, but all this stuff is not going to be sustainable. So it's kind of like a good and bad thing. So it gives us something to do right now, and I'm really excited about it because it's fun to one of my favorite things to do in the world right now is to play around with different builds. Because usually I've always been a war player. Not just that, but a bruiser. So I always play bruiser. Bruiser is what I've been playing. And I don't have a great bruiser build on this server. I literally just got Onk yesterday. That's something I need to do is today, spend time to unlock Onk. Now that they fixed instant content, I'll probably be running around with bruiser. I don't know if I want to play bruiser, to be honest. Right now, I might just throw Onk on my VG setup and drop Endless Thirst and just play this. Because my bruiser build isn't very good. But anyways, I always play bruiser, Warhammer, and Great Axe. My Great Axe, I just got this yesterday. It's better than what I had, but it's still junk. So I want to upgrade some pieces, but it's funny, I don't know how much play I'm going to get out of this, because all this stuff's going to be going gone. So I could roll to try to get some upgrades here just to make this build functional, because right now it's not really functional. It's I could beat some bad players that are new to the game, but it's not a build that's going to win me much. And mostly what I'm liking about the game right now is small scale PvP, and Bruiser's not good at that. Even if you want to play Great Axe, you're going to be, instead of doing Mauler tree for war, you're going to be doing Bloodlust tree, the left side tree for the chase, the movement speed, and then you're going to be playing Reap. So you really want a Great Axe with crippling Reap on it for the slow, and then you're probably not even using Warhammer. The most common build I'm seeing with Great Axe right now is Sword and Board with Great Axe, just to do the CC chain. Now that Leaping Strike stagger's removed, that's one part of it's kind of removed from the stagger spam. But they stagger you with Leaping Strike. They'd either stun you with Shield Bash, though I think a lot of people are dropping Shield Bash now. And they're using Upheaval, so I'm not sure what the third Sword and Shield set ability is, but there was another staggering stun ability. So they'd stagger you with Leaping Strike, and then they stagger you, CC you again with another sword ability, and then do Upheaval, and then you try to dodge away, burn your iframes, and they reap you back. They switch to GA, Great Axe, and rip you back to them with crippling, so you're slowed, and you're just cooked at that point. I mean, unless you're another Sword and Board player and you're just holding shield to block all the damage. It's a lot. It's a lot to. So it's a nice build just for that. But with the Leaping Strike stagger removed, I'm curious if that shifts the meta a little bit, because Sword and Board's just been so oppressive. If it gets a hold of you, it's really hard to get away from it, especially if they have another CC sidearm, like a secondary weapon. So I don't know if I want to. What I was doing yesterday was rolling items to upgrade these weapons, but with the 15% boost of flail, I normally never play flail. I'm thinking I might spend this season, at least in a 1v, maybe in arenas, testing out flail and seeing if I'm any good at this. I don't think I know I'm not good with it right now, because I keep trying to auto attack with the goddamn thing, and its auto attacks are terrible. It's trash. You don't move anywhere, you're just swinging at air, and anyone's gonna run away from you. So I think the way to play it is like you never auto attack with flail. You just use your ability combos, the trip, CC spam, and burst, and then you flip to your main hand main hand weapon. So it's basically like a secondary CC bot weapon, or you just put somebody on the ground and you burst them with it, assuming you're playing high strength, which I plan to do, and then you switch to like blunderbuss or whatever, and then you're mainly using blunderbuss until your CC bot rotation comes back up with flail, and you're just kiting around or trying to finish a kill with your secondary weapon, which is mainly your main hand. It's like, but the flail I think is just a burst weapon. At least the way I'm planning on playing it. You can play with the tank roll. That's the other thing too. Like if I play with VG, I wouldn't be doing strength, so I'd be playing it with like maybe 200 in the rest, 300 con, and the rest into the healer. I always forget what it's called. What is it? Faith? It's not Faith. What is this? Focus. Yeah, I always forget Focus. I normally don't play focus builds like healer staff. Like so, I'm like starting. This is the first time I've really played Void Gauntlet. I'm brand new to Void Gauntlet. It is super easy though. I mean, it's hard to fuck it up. Like I definitely don't think I have the best Void Gauntlet build. I know I don't, but it's hard to fuck it up. So, anyways, I switched over to strength as my magnify, just so because they seem to be loot rolls. It doesn't say it loot rolls, but the nice thing they do. So every time you buy one of these items, what these have been doing is, so say like I buy like a one-handed melee weapon crate, and so it says open to acquire one flail, sword, rapier, or hatchet up to 725 gear score. Item is guaranteed legendary. What it doesn't say is this doesn't say loot bias, but when I've opened like 3 or 4 of these now, and every time I've opened these, whether it's this one-handed or this two-handed, it gives me the the weapon that I have equipped, which is great. So like I have a two-handed weapon and one-handed weapon. So if I open it, it's giving me a flail if I buy a one-handed weapon crate, or it's giving me the great axe if I buy a two-handed weapon crate for melee. So that's nice. It seems to give you what you want, and then it's also giving your main stat. So yesterday I fucked it up and I wasted like 700 doubloons because I ran out to CK free for all, but I was running an int build, so my main stat was int at the time. So they all rolled. I rolled the great axe and a flail with intelligence, and I was like, fucking goddamn it, I forgot. So you want to run it with strength as your main hand, and like even right now, like maybe I need to respec again to get strength, because you don't want con weapons. So before I buy these, maybe I have to like just spend 50 gold and do that, and that's whatever. That's fine to do. I could probably do this a different way. Maybe I just switch to this. I wonder if it gets, yeah. So now if I just switch armor sets, it'll give me 330 strength. Yeah, so if I buy a chest though, so say like, I'm trying to think about what's the best. If I go back through my builds, I'm trying to like, what do I want to play for the rest of the season 9 and upgrade? Like, while I could upgrade Bruiser, I really don't care about OPRs. I'm not an OPR player. It's just pre-made groups running down solos. So like until it's a full solo queue, and it never will be, I have no expectation. I just don't care about. I really like small scale PvP, or I like war with competitive rosters at the same level. Those are the modes I like. OPR is basically just pre-made groups, lawn mowing, solo queue players, and like Bob the Builders, and it's really frustrating. It's not like if you play a light kite DPS range roll, you can have fun solo. And or else your build needs to be very, very, very good, and then you could like maybe withstand multiple players, and you have to know the tech. So like you have to be like tippity top as a solo player to really enjoy OPR, or else you're just going to get stomped by any pre-made group. They're just going to run you down and mob you. So it's like you probably have to run like a haste build, keen speed, haste, parkour, all those perks, and run away from everything in light armor. Or else you have to have, especially now that they added mounts, because you just get run down by groups with mounts. It's even got worse. Because like you can't go OPR solo Bruiser. I mean, like one match, if you're on the winning side, you're gonna have fun, and then the next match when you're on the losing side and you're like the only medium or heavy melee up on the front lines, you're gonna get roasted. It's like 15 versus 1. It's not fun at all. So yeah, I'm not a fan of OPR. But I love the small scale stuff, so I like 3v3 arenas in this game. I think those are blast. I used to not play them, but that's because I think I was playing so much Bruiser, and Bruiser just really struggles in small scale, especially if you're using Mauler. You just can't catch anything using the war build. You're not catching anybody. There's no catching. You throw gravity well, they do one dodge, they're out of it. Like, unless they're a bot, it's really like they have to really walk into your shockwave. If they walk into your shockwave armor breaker, you might be able to like sucker punch them. But even then, like you switch, you do a shockwave, you do armor breaker, you switch over to GA to use your war GA combo with like gravity well maelstrom charge, and they just would dodge out of it, pot and get out of it. But like maybe now you could burst somebody down because there's only one pot. You know, back when I was doing it, you know, you could use 2 regen and the HP pot, so it's really easy to dodge out of it, pop your red potion, pop your orange potion, and then you'd be back to top. And then the bruiser had nothing left. They just had charge, and then they couldn't finish a kill. And then you just pick them off, burn them down. So it wasn't a fun build to play. So like, but now that I'm branching out more, like light mage is fun to play. I'm not that great at it, but it's fun to play. So I can work on that one. But this is my PvE build. It's not horrible for PvP. If you're better at the mechanics of it, I think it has potential. I think the thing that I have a hard time when I try this. The gear isn't that great, but B is when I play Inferno Hatchet in PvP, I have no answer for sword and board users, and I really struggle. So like I don't have the mindset to run away. So when they just run at you, like, what are you supposed to do? Like, you're just supposed to use a haste build and run away, I guess. That's all you can do, because they just hold their shield up, and I don't really do enough damage to them. Like, a hatchet doesn't break shield for shit. Fire staff doesn't either. You can try to load them with dots, but by the time like they close on you, they CC bot you, you're pretty much toast. Like, your only option is basically to berserk and run away. But if you're not getting team support, like, there's really nothing there for you. So like, I think one thing I struggle with this build is like there's certain matchups that are meta right now and very popular that I just have no answer for, and I'm not very skilled with it. But so that's 2 things. Like, if I'm not running into sword and board players, like I generally it feels usable. But if like I run into like, hey, like 3v3 arena and 2 of the 3 enemies are equally skilled sword and board users, I feel like I'm just useless. Like, I just don't affect the game that much. So but I enjoy playing the build. It's just I'm not that great at it, and it feels like it's I don't say easily countered, but easily countered specifically by sword and board. So like other builds, it's the IGVG, and then I don't use this one with Azelth Conductors, but I just kind of like built a default one with Elemental Band and Azelth Conductors as a different kind of build eventually to test to see which one I like more. But most people seem to be playing the Djinn and Dig build. So I need to work on this. I just got Putrefying Scream. I built this one up. I upgraded it yesterday at the kiln. So I plan on using this. And then maybe I'll change Mortal Lifesteal off head wrap and put, so I think that's more of like an OPR perk. And maybe I'll put Oblivion on this. I have Voracious Blade on Shimmer Fist. That's probably as good as a Void Gauntlet as I'm going to get for the meantime until I like craft one. I go back and forth between using Pestilence, Deep Freeze, and Ectoplasm Keg. This is an int one. Pestilence is Magnify. This does more damage. But sometimes, like, all other builds I'll run into is like I'll run into another Void Gauntlet. I'll run into like a sword and board user that's using the Resolve, the HP regen, and like to keep them from like getting a lot of HP back when they go to like when they stop holding RMB, you know, just blocking, permanent blocking, and they go to chug a pot. It's nice to like nerf how much healing they're getting from those consumables, because if they're a swordboard user with Endless Thirst, man, it's fucking hard, because they get their full HP bar back with one pot, and it's really tough to burn them down unless you have some kind of disease on them. So I like to use Pestilence to counter that a little bit. Though that build's kind of a pain in the ass to fight. I killed a couple of them in this video, but I don't think they were as chonky as some other folks I fought. Maybe my build's a little bit better now because I got Putrefying Scream on my chest, which before I never had Putrefying Scream. So maybe that helped too. It's like nerfing the healing. Maybe that's having a subtle effect that I'm not really realizing. But anyway, so like I could either keep rolling flails to try to get flail to test out. Maybe that's what I will do. I'm kind of leaning that way, or else I could roll because I'm over my equipment weight on. Oh no, I'm not. So I want to equip it. I'm only using one refreshing now, but I really don't want refreshing on my build in general. It's not horrible, but for PvP, I'd rather have something else. But this one's Enchant Ward and Vig, and that's two of the perks I want on my build. So this one's hard to replace because it has two of the locked-in perks I want. I think this one is one I can replace. Enchant Ward, Slash, and Health. I don't have to have Slash Conditioning. I don't really want it. And I don't have to have Health. So I could roll Heavy Pants. And then Freedom, Hasted Vigor, Health. I could roll Boots too. But I don't know. It's nice to have some kind of a haste on my build because I don't have anything with Blunderbuss or VG really. So I could roll Boots. I could definitely roll Boots. Healing Tomb has been disabled. Ideally, I'd have, if I'm running Deep Freeze, I mean, very low GS item. So I could roll Boots. I could roll Heavy Pants, Light Boots, Heavy Pants. Gosh, I want to roll Pants. I don't think I care about the Bruiser build right now. I mean, I'm probably going to switch over to it. And let me try to mess around with the flail. That's what I'm just going to stick with the flail. Let me switch back to my setup. And I'll check, make sure I'm strength. And then, okay, I'm at the well. And I'm going to roll a flail. Let me just confirm. Flail. I'm just going to do one at a time. So this costs 375 doubloons. So I can afford two. So the weapons are 375 doubloons, and they roll 720 GS to 725, and the armor is 250 doubloons in the same GS bracket range. So, oh no, I don't want to roll it with a fire staff though, because I don't want to string fire staff. So let me put on a sword. There you go. So that way, if I, nope, I'm fucking this up really badly. Let me put on a Great Axe. Strength. So I'm hoping it'll lock in and give me the flail and not the sword or anything else. So I'm just going to use one-handed weapon on my, and see if it's loot bias or if it's random. So far it's been loot bias for me. We'll see what it comes out at. See, it seems loot bias, which is awesome. Purifying. Critical hits against players remove one buff from a target. I keep getting this purifying crits thing on it though, and I don't give a shit about purifying crits. Blessed, outgoing healing, vicious, and it seems to give blessed a lot, and I don't want blessed. So it's not horrible, but let me roll one more. That's not what I was hoping for. I don't think blessed would be like the worst perk for it, but I don't want purifying crits. I really want, so what I'm looking for out of this, I'm hoping for a damage flail. Like I want a bursty boy damage flail. I want to pump high strength and be a bursty boy. Oh, so this time it gave me a, that's not bad. That's pretty good. Keen, empowering Lippy Strikes, deals 34% damage, target slowed by Lippy Strikes. Punishment, enchanted. I might be using that. Okay, so not 100% loot biased. Let me check. Keen, Bless. So yeah, so I had a 2-perker here. Keen, Bless, Crowded Bludgeon. I kept, so I rolled 2 other flails and it kept giving me Crowded Bludgeon for some reason, and I'm not using that ability. So this is Purifying Crits, Bless Vicious. It's just generally better because it's yeah, I can put the other one away because I'm not using it. I mean, until I decide to use Bludgeon, but I'm not using Bludgeon currently. These are the abilities that feel the best for me to use. This one's Arcane Smite's pretty good. It kind of raises in the air a little bit. Barrage feels really bad. They need to fix the animation somehow on this. I keep wanting to like put it into a build to have fun with it, but it's just so slow. And the animation at the end is just so elongated. It's gonna get you killed. But I mean, Trip is mandatory with Flail just because it's so useful. I don't remember liking the animation for Warding Bludgeon is the problem. But that reinforced, that fortify is very nice if you're playing a tanky build. But I'm not going tanky boy, I'm going for burst. So I'm using Trip, Arcane Eruption, 2-6 Impairment. I might follow up with an additional melee attack that does. Yeah, so it's like 270% damage. Slows. So I haven't really looked at all the passives yet. I'm just like outlining the abilities. I'll mess around with the full tree later, but yeah. Attack triggers a chain that will bounce up to 4 times. Okay, that's kind of like a dot heal or some kind of like small heal passive. I'm not sure if I'll use that one, but I mean it's not horrible. But yeah, then Vortex, like I wasn't planning on using it, but it just feels good when you use it. So like I could see dropping Vortex for Smite, but really Vortex seems to be pretty good, just in general. But I'm curious what other burst spells are using. It's probably not Vortex because I don't remember them using it. It's definitely Trip. I'm pretty sure it's Arcane Eruption, and I don't know what the third one is. But those ones feel pretty good for me when I'm using it. So, and then for Sword and Board, I don't know if I have a better one or not. Refreshing Move, Contagious Upheaval. Hitting a target, transfer 2 active debuffs from yourself to the target. Upheaval deals 18+% damage. You know, this one's probably better. Heavy attacks, Rend. I mean, this might be better, the Hoplite Sword, because Upheaval, from everything I've heard, is just busted. So I think you're going to be wanting to run Upheaval. This one's not bad though. 1364. It says it's actually more damage. I think it's because of Enchanted. Enchanted has 5.3% increase. I mean, probably ideally you wouldn't have Ref Move here because you're not going to be attacking a ton. Most sword players I see aren't like auto attack spamming anymore. They're really using the combo, then switching to blocking or switching to their other, usually switching to their offhand and then continuing the CC disruption chain. Sword and Board for the most part like isn't. I think in wars maybe like if you're playing versus another CC bot build, you probably have to block more and pick your moments. But when you're not, they seem to be just going right at you and then just CC chaining with both weapons and they're not really blocking much. So Rough Move, they're not auto attacking, they're just switching between the weapons to continue CC, stagger, stun, knockdown, lock, if they're using spear, etc. I don't think Rough Move has a lot of value, so if I was going to switch the Hoplite Sword, I have to check. Usually the top perk's locked. If the top perk is locked, I don't know if this is BIS, or not BIS, but like the one I want to use. I have another sword. Vicious, Abyssal Attunement. So this is the lowest damage, but this is pretty good too. Yeah, I might want to mess around with a sword build. Keen Empowering Leaping Strike, Enchanted, Heavy, and I don't know if I see, to be honest, I don't know if I even see players using heavy attacks right now with sword, even though it's a fast heavy attack. Like in PvPs, usually that's not it. Usually they're just doing the CC bot combo. So Trenchant Rend, I mean for PvE, I think this is more of like a PvE sword, to be honest. This Hoplite Longsword. I don't think it's what people are using right now for PvP. I doubt it. Like it seems like almost a one perker for PvP. It's really just the Contagious Upheaval. The Refreshing Move I don't think people want. Trenchant Rend I don't think people want. Vicious, Abyssal Attunement, Entering the Powered. They all kind of have like one perk. Like Enchanted, since you're not really light attack spamming right now, I don't know if this one's that great either. Empower, Keen, and like Enchanted might not be that great. Like I'm not an expert in sword boarding because I don't really play the build. But for the time being, Let me switch some stuff out here. Maybe I'll start putting a sword and board build together or something. I want to get rid of this. How much is another one? Additional gear slot. Cool. Alright. So maybe I'll build like a sword and board. Oh, wrong thing. Maybe it's like sword and board flail or I'll figure it out. Because I don't want to be using a shield with sword and board, so like I'm sorry, with flail. I mainly want to be using I mean I could, but you'd lose the 15%. I'll put these over here just for the time being. Because I want to like benchmark. Yeah, this one's not in. Still something now. Yeah, and I'll put the build later. Flail? Question mark. But yeah, I kind of want to play around with flail right now. But it'd be like a light armor build. Kind of like this, but like, I'll just drag the stuff over there just to placeholder. I think with a shield I'll be overweight, probably. I don't really have keep a shield on me, but like with this one I definitely would be. And can't do it anyways because it's an artifact, but I'm at 11.9. I don't even know what a round shield weighs. Some added doubloons. But yeah, I might have to drop some things around. Looking for a small shield. Let's see one. Could be blind though. Last light. It weighs 2.7. Keen, sturdy fortification. Aggression. Enchant word, refreshing, shield aggression. Or just do like play around with the gear. So I'm at 14.6. I need to drop 1.7. So I'd be going from like heavy to mediums like that. Yeah, I'd have to get out of the heavy pants. So this is a 3.5. That is, yeah, that would be it. So I'd have to go down to like medium pants, and then some of the other ones would go up. I'll mess around with that later. I don't know if I have heavy pants. Enchant word. Health. Put me at 10.3, so I need to add 2.6 to my build, so I can put like, yeah. I don't know if that's that great. Main helmet. Fire harnessing. Or using medium glove. good. I mean, this one's not that great either. Sure, Chandler Shooting Heals, Health. I mean, that's better. So now I need to do 1.5. So 1.5 would really just be putting this one into, get me close, would be this one into a medium helmet, which I probably have a medium helmet I can use somewhere. But I'm not sure why I'm building around shield. Like, I don't think I want to use a shield. I'll leave it right now. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'll play around with it later. Because I think I want to. It's kind of a cool shield skin graphic. I haven't noticed that one before. But yeah, I want to mess around with flail in light armor for arena specifically. But I gotta tweak it. I don't have a build set up for it yet. And I don't even know if I want to pair it with sword and board. I probably do not. I guess you could do sword and board with it with upheaval. So like you can kind of CC lock them, like maybe flail with sword and board, and then just really go CC bot. I mean, that could be an interesting play style. I'll mess around with it. I don't really have an idea of what I want to do yet. And I wouldn't hate to actually play different weapons, like have different builds. That's part of what I enjoy right now, is that I have a VG BB build. I have a VG Ice Gauntlet. For PvE, I'm using Fire Staff, Inferno, and a Strength Hatchet. I have a Light Mage build for like miscellaneous. I'm not really using Bruiser too much right now. So it'd be kind of nice to use Flail and Sword because I don't play those in other builds. Yeah, I just like using different weapons. The combat's fun, so I enjoy tinkering around with it. So that's what I'll probably be working on. Maybe I will stick with, because I could I put blunderbuss with everything, blunderbuss sidearm, just because net shot's so generally good, pestilence just generally good, and not the best, but just generally good. But maybe it's better to, or more fun. Maybe I get more enjoyment out of playing different builds with flail and sword, and just trying different things, and yeah. And the other part of it too is not just playing versus it, but it's also like when you're playing as a build, you start to learn its strengths and weaknesses, and then once you understand it more, like where the chinks in the armor are, it helps you counter it more, or understand what it's weak to. So that way when you face it, like a lot of times now, when I face another VG, I just switch to my offhand blunderbuss or fire staff, usually blunderbuss for me, and I'll just pepper them with auto attacks outside of their range. Okay, you have a range limitation. Now let me just net shot you. You're using a linear attack build, melee attack. If they're using a different one, if they're using the range VG kit with the different range attacks it has, it's different. Blunderbuss doesn't necessarily counter it, and they get a lot of healing, but that's less common. Most people are running the VG melee with Oblivion, Void Blade, and Scream. That's the most common one I'm saying. But Tether is super, super strong. Tether gives me a hard time when people are using a range build with Lifetaker and they tether me and they're in light armor. I really struggle versus those builds, so I don't have a counter for that right now. I got to work on that. But anyways, I'll probably be just trying to get like doubloons and build up different sets. Like maybe I'll start running more jewelry because my jewelry is pretty low. But, and I don't necessarily want to run thrust protection. I just don't have a slash protection one. I'd rather get slash, hell, even void would be better than this, because I run into more void blades than I do thrust. Usually when I run into a musket or a bow, to be honest, like it's not a fight that I'm like trying to take anyways, because unless they really screw up, I'm not catching them. Like they can run away from me at pretty much any time. So like the only reason why I killed the bow early in this recording is because he tried to he was trying to kill me with his spear. And he either misplayed or I just countered him with Scream and then burst him down. But anyways, like the first fight when I fought the guy, he's a good player, but I didn't have my honing stone. I don't think I was using, a protection consumable. I wasn't using Desert Sunrise. I didn't have, I thought I had it up at the time, but I didn't have my con. So I was, instead of being at 300 con, I was at the time I was using like I was somewhere like 254, 256, so I was shy of 300 cons, so I just wasn't as strong without the honing stone and the food. But there were close fights both ways, but the consumables are a big deal in this game. Like if you're not using them, you're at a major disadvantage, and you need to use them if you want to be competitive versus other competitive players. It's too much of accumulated kind of buffs, and you got to buff yourself up for PvP. But anyways, that is it for right now. I'm gonna end the recording. Just gonna buy a couple more of these before I forget. Cool. And yeah, but that is all. I'm gonna take a little break, and later on, well, like I said, I might, shit, I don't know what I want. I might just put this on that build, take this off, and hopefully I don't forget what I was using here with these. But yeah, then I need to work on Ankh. So I'll probably be hopping into some instance content a little later to do these. I might start a different recording for that. It's nothing too crazy. Like Ankh's not using this build. I use Endless Thirst, but I need to do instance PvP to unlock this stuff. So I'll probably be using this build to try to accomplish that. But I'm going to take a break. I'm going to chill for a little bit, give my dog some attention. But hope you guys got something out of the PvP stuff, found it enjoyable, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.